Is it anybody out there? Read some words from my subconscious. Yeah. Mortalized. I'm so bionic in my subconscious. I be spitting, I never run out of options. Wisdom and logic, predicted it like a Nostradamus. I meditate in silence, so much inventory in here. Anything you need, you can find it. Flashbacks of hard times, horror movies in my mind. Roll up the herb cause it helps me unwind. Look around here, ain't no telling what you might find. Old crimes that can't even escape my mind. Traveled the world, took so many notes, wrote many quotes. All I seem to have is time, but tell me where it goes. Euphoria, paranoia from way before. Operate this computer with ancestors' codes. These be some words from my subconscious. Is it anybody out there? Words from my subconscious. Is it anybody out there?
Hello, hello, grand day, and welcome to another episode of the Friday Expedition, episode 9, Conscious Healing, with myself, Marcus ChristoLight, and Magic Yana, the Healing Magician. Thank you guys for all tuning in. How are you today, brother?
I'm doing very well. I have had daily in the last days. First time was the 21st of December. I bought a cold tub and have it on the balcony, and it's -2 degrees right now. So it's fairly like Celsius. You know, it's fairly freezing, snowing outside, and having the cold plunge in the morning and sometimes in the evening really does some amazing things with me. So, you know, talking about conscious healing, this kind of helps me to
Wow,
really reset
negative
myself
2.
every time I go. Yeah, reset myself every time I go in it. You know, helps me to really strengthen my self-worth as well. Like, it boosts me for the rest of the day. It really lifts my energy for the rest of the day. Less than 2 minutes a day, you know, so it's such a small amount of time where I can achieve so much positive results for myself. Very, very happy and grateful that I did this.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a good way to kind of like combat, becoming cold, is by just going into cold and getting ourselves adaptive to it. What a great way to get yourself prepared.
Yeah, you know, it's not even that. It's not about the cold, you know. It's about me. So most people scare about the cold, or like they push it of the cold, or focus on the cold. But it's not the cold itself. It's not that. It's you. And you know, like, just what happens within you, the entire process before you go in it, when you go in it, when you go out of it, the day that you spend after you went in, or the conversations that you have after you went in, everything changes. So it's remarkable. You know, I was like the person who had difficulties waking up in the morning and being motivated and going out of bed, because I love the dream state very much and like to stay as long as I can in the dream state. But for me now, and I like to wake up slowly too, but then go in it, because I know I gotta do some work and get myself activated in this physical realm. It's fascinating.
Yes. Definitely. So conscious healing, there's so many layers that we can dive into with conscious healing. And, one thing that really comes to me right now is, the art of being present with our emotions, being present with what it is that we are experiencing authentically, and getting to a point with ourselves where we're not judging ourselves and we're not condemning any emotion that we go through and any thought that we have, but allowing it to have its space for what it is in that moment, and just really like finding ways to process it and really sit with it and try to tune into the messages of why a certain emotion could be happening, or why certain thought patterns are continuing to happen. And the more I became more softer, more open, and more loving to these aspects of myself when they arise, I find that I'm able to sort of move forward from the energies a little bit easier and a little bit more effectively by not resisting them, not trying to force them, but being present with what is in that moment, and then deciding from what I process with it, what is next for me then. And it's very easy, especially in society where our nerves can be very ridden, or we could be very depressed in our energy and not really have a lot of fuel inside of us to really have the stability and the patience and the fortitude not to get too triggered to where we're reacting and reacting to all these things. um, it's it's definitely a journey with yourself, and finding that grace of knowing that we can always change and change through our actions, the way that we're directing our energy, has been one of the biggest keys for me to consciously heal in this journey, instead of allowing the shadows, the triggers, the unaddressed versions to continue to take over. And grounding practices have been a staple for myself over the last, I would say, 5 to 6 years. Grounding myself, finding ways to get into my body, but not just in my body, but in my body while feeling in harmony with my emotions and with my mind. And chakra balancing has been a great practice for me over the years that I do every rising. And then yoga as well has also been a very great practice for integrating and bringing that harmony to the mind body soul complex. What about you, brother man?
Like in the morning, definitely writing and breathing. So I wake up, I have my journal next to me, I pick up the pen, and the first thing that comes out of my mind I write down right away. The moment that I decide to open my eyes. So most days really. And for a while now, last year, it just deepened that I woke up and automatically started to focus on breathing. Um, so the importance of the breath, definitely, meditating, doing some breathing exercises in the morning, or even when I run late, or I decided to lay in bed longer, to stay in that sleeping state. But the moment I wake up, or like I go up, I start focusing on the breath, and to create that space that you were talking about, We can do this with our breath, and when we lengthen our breath, we can practice it through lengthening the exhale when we're breathing, moving the energy up and down our spine, or just like maybe counting numbers whilst we're breathing in for 5, out for 7, in for 3, out for 5. If you can't breathe so long in, and even when I go into the eyes, the only thing I focus on is my breath, and at the beginning. And once I'm over the worst part, like I'm not even thinking about my breath necessarily any longer, because I'm just there in my own awareness of what I am experiencing in this present moment and what it does with me. The amount of peace that comes in when I allow the cold in as well. I'm not fighting it. I let it in, and it's the principle of the diamond. The diamond is not resisting the pressure that it's being made under. You're not resisting the pressure, you're being formed by it. And when we allow ourselves to be formed by light, rather than trying to manipulate the outcome, through negative thoughts, through manipulative thoughts, we can even think about something positive and destroy the outcome. So whatever we do, we gotta be clear about our why we do it and what we do, the why and the what we do, and the how gets easier. When we know the first two, the how gets easier, and then you can ask yourself, do I want it? Because many people say, I can't go into the cold, so they consciously or unconsciously say that they can't before they haven't even tried it. This doesn't even exist, and I realized as a young child that every time I said I can't, I didn't want it to, when I was totally honest to myself. So I see people talking about I can't do this, but what they actually mean is they don't want to. They're just a little mixed in the way that they communicate.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually just had an example of this yesterday with, going out to clean my car off, because I hadn't been outside in my car the last 2 days, because we got like almost a foot of snow and a bunch of ice. So I was just hibernating indoors, enjoying the time with my dad. And yesterday I went out, and before I went out, I basically just went through a mental preparation process the first few minutes before I went out there. And, while I was doing things like doing the dishes and miscellaneous things before I went out there, I was just mentally thinking about in my head, like, okay, I'm getting ready to go out there. It's, what we can call quote unquote cold weather, but I'm able to adapt. I'm able to adjust. I'm able to get myself generating within to be strong enough inside that I'm not going to allow the outside to absorb me and take over me. So as I was kind of just allowing that to play through my head while I was going through the things I was doing, and then of course I just put on some extra layers as well to support that. But then, I have the internal in gear with what it is that I want to align with, which is not being absorbed by the outside, not being taken over by it. And on top of that, I also gave support to my being by adding more layers to my body as well to support it. And with that, for me, I just mentally kind of be like, all right, now I did the things that I needed to. These things are in place and they're going to do what they need to in order to help me stay warm. And then just continue forward mentally into just being and just being present, knowing that I prepared myself and I did the things that I needed to for my being to be able to withstand it and be able to thrive. And I went out there and literally did not feel any cold, and cleaned off my car, all that good stuff. Got snow inside my shoes and all that, and just couldn't feel the cold. So, mental preparation is something that we always have the free will ability to do before going into something. So, like, if we know we're about to experience something, or we know we're about to go into a certain environment or a setting, we can mentally prepare our being to adjust and adapt and be fit to go into that environment and not have to be overtaken or swayed by it. And this is really about anything in life. It doesn't even have to be about cold weather. It could be about, your job, um, next game in your sports game. It could be about the podcast you're about to do, the lecture you're about to give in front of 100 people. We do this all the time, that mental preparation of ourselves. And sometimes we're preparing ourselves into negativity instead of positivity and strength. Sometimes we're dwelling so much on the negativity and on the toxicness of something that we're preparing ourselves for more of that energy and for our own energy vibration to then be in that as well. So, power of the mind is definitely big, and we can really direct the way that our being and our energy is orchestrating, and the way that it's utilizing its consciousness in itself through the way that we direct our mind. Um, so yeah, it's definitely a key thing in this journey. And I wanted to bring up, since we're talking about conscious healing, um, boundaries and accountability, especially through the healing journey. And like, really, when you're on different sides of the contrast, there's accountability and boundaries depending upon where you're at and who you are that can resonate for you. And I see a lot nowadays where we could have not clear boundaries or not be clear with our communication of what it is that we could want or need to best serve us in a relationship or in a connection or with things that we're interacting with. And then we can find ourselves stepping into that field with them. And then we get triggered by something that they do or say or that we experience. And then we have old energies from the past or traumatic energies surface up within us. And this is where, conscious healing is a great topic for this, because I feel like, it's a two-way street with accountability. If we're not being accountable for our own self by being aware of ourself enough of, okay, how am I going to navigate these triggers when I'm around others, or when I'm in a relationship or in connection with people that I'm continuously getting triggered by, even though they are doing pure, innocent, kind, and loving things. And having boundaries and really knowing, like, what is it that I can put in place for myself, or where is my kind of like pause button for me to be able to not start projecting my old fears or projecting my old distortions onto this other person that is doing nothing more but trying to love and care for me. And I feel like it's a very deep topic for all of us as humans as we go through this journey with space holding and also being vulnerable. What do you feel about that? Do you feel like, there could kind of be like boundaries for both ends and also like accountable communication as well?
Yeah, I believe that we have to be accountable for every single thing that we do. So it's a deep topic, because how many of us say words every single day that they do not mean, or they didn't mean to? Oh, sorry, I haven't meant to hurt you, or those things. it's been with me my entire life, so it's very interesting topic for me to talk about. And um, I know that this specific conversation that we have today is very important and for many people. Um, because we come to a point in our life where, if we really want to have a different outcome, so if I don't want to have to regret what I said again, like if I'm just sick and tired of regretting words that I've said to someone that I didn't mean to, but I do it again and again. The moment that I become aware of that, I hold myself accountable to it. So this is the moment. Where's my chance? where I have the opportunity. The moment that I catch myself doing the unconscious thing that I actually don't want to do. This is the moment when I catch myself. So I'm there, and then I say, next time I do better. This is what I did with things that I wanted to change. Instead of, wow, you're stupid, you did it again, and just, beating myself up on it, which happened before, I just say something nice to me. Next time I do better. Next time I remember to be kind to myself, or next time I remember to whatever, or I do better next time. We gotta hold ourselves accountable. It's not that we will never unconscious again. Like, it's a process, it's a journey, but we have to, the moment that I become aware of that in my meditation, in my breath work, I'm not doing what I'm doing. I gotta be accountable in this moment and know why I'm not doing what I wanted to do before. Why am I breathing differently? Why I'm doing a different exercise? Why did I forget to breathe a certain way and I'm thinking about my job? So the moment that I catch myself drifting away with whatever I do in the meditation and the breath work, in the sauna and like in my job and whatever I do, really, the moment I get unconscious and I'm aware of I do something that I don't want, I gotta make a change in that moment. Because if I don't, I miss the train. And it's time for us to catch the train. It's a very beautiful ride when we catch the train. And, it's the visualization as well that comes with it. You catch yourself, you hold yourself accountable on it, and then you visualize yourself doing it better next time. Conscious healing, doing the work that I do, like, for me, it's crystal clear that this person will be better after we spend time together. This is for me the baseline, the basic. I visualize, I imagine a great outcome. This is how I start the thing. This is how professional sport players manifest their results, their wins, their medals, whatever, their records. They see themselves before they do it. So we're conditioned to see ourselves fail or to be in competition and never be enough. So we gotta change some programs within ourselves in order for us to know that we are enough, that we are unique, and whatever we do in this present moment is right. And I just have to take myself one step at a time, be accountable for one thing at a time, and move on. Don't try to do 20 things at once. It does not work. Know that you will do them when the time is right. Don't overthink it. This is what I can say to accountability and some more layers to it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I got another, kind of like situational experience question for you. Now, say we're in a connection and we really care about this connection and we want to be able to continue to grow with this other person in the connection or people, whatever it may be. And you continuously are trying to give, care, you're trying to give love, you're trying to be there, but they are in a state of a lot of wounding, a lot of trauma. And, you're trying to build the connection, but there's a lot of triggers that keep coming up for them while you're just being loving, being kind, and just expressing. And those triggers end up becoming projections, like heavy projections. And there's no accountability being taken from the wounded projector, the archetype in this scenario. But you really care about this person, and you really want to make the connection grow, and you really want to be able to do it with them. How do you really navigate that kind of scenario with boundaries, or if you've ever faced a scenario like that, how do you navigate it typically?
I run against the wall too many times until I love it. Because they won't change. They won't. Everything that you describe as they won't change. They will never change. Everything that you think they, which is outside when you speak that way, they won't change. So who has to change? It's me.
Yeah.
It's me who has to change. So also again there, if I have the feeling this person isn't accountable for their own deeds and is misbehaving again, making me sad, but I just want to love, my focus has to go inside, and I gotta check in with my values and be clear of what I value in my life and hold myself accountable to my values. And if that person isn't respecting my values, why is this person in my life? So, is this person in my life because I don't respect my values? Is also what I gotta ask myself. So, I gotta find back to me and what I allow this person to do with me, because I wouldn't be in a relationship if I have learned out of it, because it happens again and again and again and again. And I say it again, like, I run against the wall many times. I was like, the first 100 times I was not quite evolved in my human capacity. I was young and wild and just did it. But the moment that it became clear to me, the more I did it, the worse the feeling in me got. The moment I become aware of myself being unconscious and not standing up for myself, not protecting myself, not holding myself accountable for my own values, and being heard through this relationship that I seem to experience, then like I had to go into another direction. I had to speak differently to that person, or stop speaking to that person, or try it again in a month to resolve this thing, or leave it completely. How many people in our lives we had amazing times with, but we never exchanged contacts and they just left. But we still have them in our hearts. But how many people treated us like shit and we still carry them with us? So we gotta learn what we need to learn and start making different decisions, and then taking action upon it. Not just making a decision, you gotta take action after you made it. So
Yeah, great answers. Thanks. I'm sure there's many of us out there that are either going through this now, or gone through it, or will be going through that type of scenario. And it can be tough, it can be really tough, especially if you have a big heart and, you're not as conscious with your boundaries. You can very much play the tug along game and drag the other person, get dragged by the other person if we don't really address these kind of things in the ways we need to. And one thing that has really helped me be able to mentally prepare myself and mentally find it perfectly okay to just walk away or to be able to let go is, taking a look at myself and being like, okay, I'm like at the point where, I'm not doing anything negative towards this person. I'm not like demeaning them. I'm not doing anything like, untrustworthy or demeaning to them. And I'm really, being as peaceful and loving as I can. And I've really, I've done what I can. There's nothing else for me to really be able to do other than that person be accountable for their own self. And if they can't do that and take the steps to either, take their own space or do whatever they need to, then perhaps I got to do it for us both. And that can be tough. That can come up in relationships. It can come up when you're trying to help someone that's going through addiction. It can come up with, controlling family members or controlling people around you that just do not want to step out of their own self and the things that they are continuing to loop in. And along with that, just holding compassion and holding love, trying not to let that kind of like turmoil energy kind of start to bubble up. And then we kind of start to feel like we don't like that person anymore and stuff like that. I always find like if I ever start to get to that point and I start to recognize that, then that's when I definitely gotta cut the cord and I gotta let go, because for something to become very pure and loving, and that's what you really were delivering and wanting and doing with this person, and then for experiences and shadows to then start to dampen it, I'd much rather just recognize it, address it, and let go. Or, recognize it, address it, try to instill conscious boundaries between each other in a respectful way. But then, if those boundaries aren't being met and these things aren't, being done for the best of everybody's well-being, then, like we said, you just got to take that step and do what's higher for everybody, even though it could hurt your human heart or it could hurt your human self. Sometimes we got to take that step into the higher self and do something that's a little bit beyond what our human ego wants to do. Ooh, yeah. And we play both roles throughout this life. And I'm sure a lot of us have been on both sides of it. And there's much to learn from both sides when it comes to that. And, another part of like conscious healing is, when you're in those shadowy moments and stuff, taking accountability of that energy and, recognizing, if you can, in those times, okay, if I really put this on people, if I really, spew all these projections onto people, it could really affect them, could really alter their life, could really change the way that their soul is traveling through this earth plane. And if you do end up unconsciously projecting, giving yourself grace, but then after giving yourself grace, acknowledging it with the other person, or apologizing in some type of way that feels authentic to you, of just acknowledging it, acknowledging the behavior, and trying to do better moving forward. But like I said, you can't control people. We can't change people. If we can't take accountability, then it is what it is. And it can definitely get tough when accountability doesn't want to be held, because then it becomes kind of like a very imbalanced dynamic where one person's upholding accountability and integrity while the other is just doing whatever. And it's so it's definitely a deep topic, very deep topic.
Extremely, yeah. It's the tension in between that lets us grow. We wouldn't grow without the tension. This is why intention is important. Many people try to escape the tension in life, but this is the same that as I start with this and I end with this. The ice for me allows me to be in that tension, and to really hold that energy and let it flow through me no matter what. So yeah, back to you. Hello,
welcome. Welcome to everybody. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Very important.
So with conscious healing,
we got to do a second one.
Yeah, it's a good one. So with conscious healing, something that really stands out to me is kind of like tuning into and feeling the rhythms of where our spirit is flowing, or where our intuitive nature is flowing. When we're more present with ourselves, we can feel, at least for me, I can feel my internal system and my energy flow kind of go in the motion of what feels most natural for me. And what I mean by that is I will naturally feel when it's time for me to be exerting energy and creating. And then I'll also naturally feel when it is time for me to recharge and rest and self-care, that masculine and feminine energies. And through my journey, I found honoring those flows as they come has really been able to help me be able to maintain my balance, maintain my health and well-being a lot better than trying to force how my energy should be flowing, or forcing the direction of where my being and energy is trying to be. And along with that, the more that I've continued to just allow that natural calling, that natural messaging to me to be listened to, I've found myself also having more fun and more security within myself of being exactly where I need to be, due to the harmonization of what my spiritual intuitive energy is guiding me with, and anchoring that into the ego self, or the lower nature, as just what it is. And something that I found very helpful as well, with kind of getting training the ego or getting the ego to be more comfortable with listening with the spirit and adjusting when it's called has been finding little ways creatively to insert, whether it is inner child things or it could be something that has always been connective and brought a spark to me since childhood all the way up until now. I'll find ways to kind of introduce those things and blend them in with my practices, or I'll blend them in with the things that I do. And when I do that, and I put these different tools and strategies in place for the different type of archetypes that we move through in the day, then my human self or the ego self feels more of a connective as well as innocent and playful energy with what it is that I'm doing in my practices. So for example, when I introduce, Dragon Ball Z things into the way that I'm creating or into the way that I'm using my self-care time, it helps my inner child, it helps my human self feel more connected and also find more joy and a spark in what can be very mundane and dull spiritual practices. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, inner child is another topic. Like we gotta have fun. I was a serious one. I think I talked about it. I felt I still sometimes like not that much anymore, but to be too serious, like I really allow myself and try to have fun along the way. It was a serious childhood for me. I haven't had much fun with what I've seen and kind of was in. So it was lots of pressure that I couldn't fully relate to. Let me say it this way. I couldn't relate to that pressure that I was feeling as a child. Now I can relate to it a little better. Much better actually. So yeah, deep topic, man. I could go on and on and on. It could be a name of a podcast as well. Conscious healing podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
So much needed. Stronger meditations. I do them from time to time, but I'm not sure if they work immediately or after some time. It really depends. It first depends on the resonance that you have with the one who is doing the meditation, as an example. Guided meditations, you gotta resonate with the energy that it's being made with, the voice, the tone, like everything. And you gotta be intentional on why you do what you do. Don't expect something from your egoic mind. Try to be open to receive what's best for you. And then any guided meditation is usually helping you towards that if your intention is to receive the best, no matter what that is. It's not up to our ego to decide upon what's best for me to receive in this guided meditation or not. So, are they powerful also when not done live? They both have benefits, like you can do them privately and just like have some great time by yourself, and also listening with people together on a live. I mean, the collective energy live is definitely something special we all should experience together. Yeah. Every activation is good repeating. Or to remind yourself of the activation, because many people do this with their bad experience. They travel back in time and experiencing trauma all over again. The same you can do with experiences that you like. you can go back and remind yourself back in time on how beautiful that is and how much it gives to you. So activate, activate, activate. Like, stay activated. You know,
For
and if you
sure.
feel your, then activate yourself.
Don't forget to ground yourself as well.
Oh, important.
Gotta have that
Massage.
balance.
Yeah, and the herbs, herbal tea. You know.
As they say, your branches can only grow as deep as your roots are.
Bro. You know, if I start talking about transformation, people usually, I usually scare the shit out of people. I'm not always like, you know, I can be very rude when my serious child comes out.
Yeah, there's a lot of buried layers, very
Oh,
thick down there in those lower animalistic chakras that people are it's a little timid and afraid to touch. Um, and we're getting there. We're getting there as a humanity, whether it's easy or tough experiences that are going to get us there. We're definitely getting there.
mm-hmm.
And to just give a little bit of my perspective as well with the questions. Yeah, so for me, I see a lot of these questions are kind of like both questions, as in like it's it's powerful whether it's live or if it's physically in person. That amount of powerfulness can also be determined by how much you're willing to be unlimited to how much it can affect you. So if you're sitting there with the mindset, oh, they're doing this meditation, but it's online and it's through a screen, therefore it's not going to affect me as much, then you're kind of assimilating that experience to come into play with what you're receiving and what you're experiencing. But if you just see it as, I'm in a meditation, and that is what it is, then you just receive and be a part of the meditation for what it is to you in that moment. And then along with that also, there's just like Yana was saying, there's different benefits, so to say. Online, you get to do it in the comfort of your home, or you get to do it wherever you're at. And then you can still receive the frequencies and energy, because more than anything, that's what it's about. It's frequencies and it's energy. And frequencies and energy travels through the ether, through everything. It's not bound to solid objects. It's not bound to the third dimension. It goes through the solid objects. It goes through the third dimension. So these meditations that we're doing online, they're not like being stopped by the screen, or they're not being, ruffled up or anything like that. These technologies are actually amplifiers of energy. They have quartz crystals and other material and minerals in them that actually amplify energy, which is why they're able to be on a screen and be able to project into our spaces. So yeah, again, it's just, how much are you limiting your own self and your own mind of what energy is capable of? That's how I see it for me. And as far as repeating activations, it's really up to you, and kind of sensing where you're at in your wellness and in your journey of, do I feel like I could really use benefit of this activation today, or right now in this moment? Or is it not really necessary and I'm pretty well, I'm pretty good? Just being present with yourself, and also knowing that, there can't really be too many times of doing something. Now, yeah, you could probably abuse something and then overuse it in those moments where your energy is not needing it. But you can do it as much as you would like. I'm not sure exactly what kind of activations you're talking about. Um, but another thing I will say out there too, since we're talking about consciously healing, is kind of like know for yourself, whether it's through experience or through study, what are the effects or what are the consequences or what type of symptoms or what kind of replenishing process am I going to go through after this activation? And if I need like a few days to integrate after this activation, then that's something that we probably want to honor for ourselves and then move into the next activation. But again, it's up to you, and it's authentic to you and where you're at with your being on when you should be doing certain activations or when you should just kind of just be yourself and continue to flow. And then yeah, so I mean that's a little bit of my perspective for your questions.
I like that. It's very individual, and it's all about becoming your own guru as well along the way, analyzing yourself, observing yourself. The way I do it in my entire life since I can think is I always think about the consequence first, like I'm always going inside myself and feel into it, tune into it, go into my intuition and feel if I do this, like, what consequences could there be? How does it feel? Do I want to risk it? Don't I? Like there are certainly times where, I do daily activations, just really depending on like really what Crystal says, what type of activations. We gotta find our balance in it, in whatever we do, and even if you integration is a big part of healing. We gotta take a step back and integrate and allow ourselves to be present with the change within ourselves. Because only if we're present with the change within ourselves, we truly heal in a long-lasting way. Or like we transform. This is the transformation. Healing is the transformation. Change are the things that lead to transformation. Changes. And then the transformation is the healing. Like healing is done, you transform. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like new. Like you haven't been there before. Never before. It's only you. So and it's so time that we do this. Like humanity, we are ready.
Yeah. So, really it boils down to being present with yourself and just being in tune with what is for you. Like, is this mentally good for me? Or is this feeling emotionally good for me? Is this feeling physically good for me? Am I feeling overstimulated or overwhelmed because I'm constantly activating myself? Do I feel like I'm ungrounded and kind of floating? Or am I feeling a little bit depleted? Am I feeling like I could use a boost? Just tuning in, seeing how you are, and then If there's a practice that you have or a tool that you have, then you can utilize it if necessary. But yeah, last thing I gotta say is just being present with yourself and not feeling like there is a right or wrong to whatever it is that you do choose to do. But remembering that it's a temporary moment, it's a temporary experience that you do move through, and you'll be able to make more choices after that as well. If it's something that you don't like, or if it doesn't resonate for you, or you don't find it helpful. That continuous explorative mind, of the innocent child is one of the most wondrous things that a lot of teachers and healers talk about, because it keeps us in that eternal and non-biased filter where, instead of judging our experiences or judging ourselves and judging everyone around us because they experience something or they move through a shadow, we just see that these are experiences and temporary moments in the earth plane, that we have free will choice to just continuously experience. We can give ourselves grace and love. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys today.
Yeah, one more thing for me. It's meditation generally means to become familiar with. So your entire goal in life is to be familiar with what you experience. And anytime you experience some unfamiliarity, you're not in a meditative state of mind. So usually everything that surrounds you should be familiar to you, and this is the goal in life, to just know what you know and be very sure about that, be very sure about what you know, and you only have to focus on that. So time for us.
And I love those reminders: grounding, drinking a lot of water, walking in nature. We gave you the reminders, but thank you for the reminders as well.
Yeah, it all comes back to you.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to do a part 2 of this conscious healing topic and see what kind of things just come up until the next episode to speak upon when it comes to conscious healing, because there's so many more layers that we can explore for sure.
Yeah, it's what I'm passionate about, like I believe that the healing frequencies, like it's magic in it. And it's all pattern, it all makes sense, it all happens in divine order, so this is why I came to the Healing Magician, because there is a frequency that I'm aware of my entire life, and it's very healing and it's magic, and the more I tap into it, the more I see the magic happening in life itself, the people that I touch, the way I touch myself has changed. So like biggest part is like how I lay my hand on my own body, because how I touch myself is how I touch others. And if I learn to touch myself in ways to be present with myself, in ways that I feel safe within myself, then I heal. And it's all that. It's all to finding back to who we are within ourselves. Touching ourselves with love, compassion, kindness with ourselves, first and foremost. And then we see how we touch the world is equal to how we touch ourselves.
Yeah. But then you start touching the world like you touch yourself, but they may be too wounded for that type of touching. And that's just a whole nother topic for the next episode.
You gotta start seeing it from new angles, like the angels, and then you start understanding
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
All right, brother. You have a blessed rest and night over there in Germany.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know, it's snowing and stuff.
Yeah,
I
for
was
us,
gonna,
it's fucking, it goes for it.
I bet out there, especially because you're more north.
Yeah, but like the last winter's like nothing like this right now. So we had
Yeah.
a power outage yesterday as well. I'm like, it was
Wow.
a feeling because all electricity stopped in the entire town, small villages around as well, and it's fucking cold outside. It's snowing,
Yeah.
It's super interesting what's happening. So I'm just excited of the bright future that we all create right now, from our hearts. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to give like a prayer to everybody, just to stay as well as you can and to embrace as much love and connection as you can as well during these times. And there's a lot of hate out there. There's a lot of divide. There's a lot of pointing fingers, a lot of propaganda, a lot of things about elite and poor and all these different things. And right now in this time, what I'm feeling is it's time for us to drop all these labels. It's time to drop all of these identities and stop pointing the fingers and see that we are all in human forms. And with these human forms comes light working shadows for all of us. Some of us may be deeper in our shadows than others. Some of us may be filled with purity more than others. But really, no one's better than the other. Not even the rich, quote unquote, ruling class, if you continue to still call them that, or the homeless out in the street. We're all subject to the human nature and the third dimension of this earth. And we're even seeing it now here in America. America is getting hit all over the country with devastations and disasters. We had Carolina and Tennessee just a couple of months ago with the mudslides and the hurricane that hit the mountains. And now California, South Los Angeles, over, I don't even know, like 90,000 acres was literally on fire, torched. Every building, every house, every single thing gone right now, including celebrities, including the rich. So for me, what Spirit's telling me is, this is the time where we're all learning and coming into a remembrance that we are all unified consciousness here. And it doesn't matter how rich you are. It doesn't matter how poor you are. It doesn't matter your location. Nature, the spirit, forces unseen by our eyes can still be at play, whether you're rich or poor. And it's a hard time, but it's also a transformative time as well. And again, I just want to give the message to embrace love and connection while you're here and while you have it, because we honestly don't know what could happen tomorrow. People in South LA, a place that is not used to dealing with adversity like that whatsoever, just literally had their whole entire thing torched. So anything's possible, man. The mudslides in Carolina, the mountains never get hit by a hurricane. They got hit by a hurricane. It's unpredictable. And this is why you hear people emphasizing, try to embrace love every day you can, because you don't know when the last day is you'll be in this body. And yeah, I love you guys. I love everybody.
Yeah. Yes, love you too.
Ooh. Any closing words?
Love. No, I start different. Do what you love and love what you do. If you don't do it, leave it.
Mm. Ashe. Wholeness and balanced love, everybody.